Hello, trainers, and welcome back to the World Cup of Pokemon, hosted by Victory Road, sponsored by Elgato, GG Tour, and Metafi, and cast for the rest of today by myself, Hayden McTavish, and the one and only Evan Wang. How are you feeling today, Evan?
Hi, it's very nice to be back on the mic with you, Hayden. And what an amazing day we have had so far of these top four matches. It's very similar to yesterday. Just really amazing to see how things played out. Yeah, so yesterday Thailand was able to clinch that spot into the finals, and here we're moving into our sixth game. But the score is already 4-1 to Canada, and Canada will be joining Thailand in that finals for next week for our World Cup. So these are the scores so far, but don't let these 2-0 scores, distract you, because the matches have been really close, and really both sides fought very hard to get to this point, and really props to them for bringing all these games to us and for us to be able to put on such a good show today.
It always sounds a little cheesy to say, but the real winners are us, because we got to see these great, amazing matches. And it really is just like a huge thanks to both of these teams for being just incredible. It really showed all the work that they did to get up to this point, all the preparation they did as teams to give us these matches that really were like, I've been on the edge of my seat this whole morning. If I fall off my chair, you'll know why. These are just so fun to watch. And I'm really excited for these last two matches we get to showcase.
Yeah, so now we will get to showcase William Patterson versus Meaghan Rattle. Both players are like pretty well known in the community in general. William, a player that actually like started this draft league and started a very nice community, so no stranger to draft leagues. And Meaghan most recently achieved her second top 8 in a row at Worlds this year. So nice to see how these players match up. And there are no stakes here, so it's kind of like a send-off, for Australia, the Australian team, maybe for Meaghan in Series 12. Get like to see how she plays, and I'm personally always filled with respect of how she approaches the game in general.
Yeah, I'm so excited to get to cast a game from Meaghan. She's just such an incredible player, and it was amazing to watch her at Worlds, and I'm really excited to get to cast a game here. It really is, there's so many great matches we get to see here, and so much that both players can probably take away from learning about this. Like, these players are incredibly well accomplished as we showcase their accomplishments here.
Yeah, so William is one of the 8 returning members from the Canada squad. This Canadian team, very young, very like full of energy. And he had a record of 2-1 last year, so positive record. And this year, he's 3-3 right now, looking to make that record positive against Meaghan. Like I said earlier, he's a sort of a veteran in that online grassroots scene in general. And his record, like for the World Cup so far, he's been using a lot of like different teams and different restricted pairs, so it does show some flexibility as a player. From Meaghan's end, so these are her accolades. I think there's not enough screen space. 2 times regionals finalist, 2 times regionals champion, and then both the 2019 and 2022 back-to-back World Championships top 8. She changed things up from Calyrex Palkia way back. This is like a throwback to the first regionals that we had in Series 12, 13th March in Brisbane regionals. That was 6 months ago, and like brought this Zacian Kyogre with that Celesteela team, which is a good call into the meta, and was so impressive to see her run. But today we're going to see her, get that throwback and use that team once again.
Yeah, exciting to see players go through all kinds of different teams and decide what team they want to do for what might be their last set of this whole tournament. And so we do get to see that Calyrex Palkia that you called out we've seen this team before with that Regieleki and all of the other standard supporting casts. And then William Patterson's going to be using Kyogre with Double Grass, Rillaboom, and Whimsicott, and then Incineroar, Zacian, and that Thundurus we so often see in that composition.
So this team from William was used by his teammate Matt Titt earlier. The team from Meaghan also kind of used by her teammate Ben Madigan earlier in the stream. So could be some teamwork here. It's good for like your community, these teammates, to share information with each other. Practice a lot during the matches and see how flowcharts go. I'm very curious to see that if this is like the team that Meaghan wants to use it way back in the meta during March, or it could be something like a post worlds change, like any change ups to the team, as we did see like Paul Chua in particular use this team composition to achieve top 4 at worlds. It's the very same worlds that Meaghan got top 8 in. So like the top 8 bracket is just so amazing and so stacked, and then like Meaghan's just here, and we're able to feature her game for all of you guys to see.
Yeah, kind of nice for Meaghan to signal. I did really well with Celesteela. I could also have done really well with this team, just like Palchua did. And nice to sort of see her going out in this tournament using that team. And I love the point. I really want to just say it one more time that these players are using teams that other players on their team have used too. Like World Cup is really a team tournament, and it's really exciting to see players working together and really honing these ideas for use in the finals or for being sent off on this tournament.
True, and then this seems to be a pretty even matchup, but William really needs to pay attention to not let Trick Room get set up, because once Trick Room is set up and the Calyrex Ice just comes in, just spams Astral Barrage and Ghost Spur, as we do see that lead to allow Meaghan to set up Trick Room. We are watching this from Meaghan's point of view. The Zacian and, the Palkia and the Among Us sort of threatening to go like redirection and Trick Room, and also that spore pressure from Among Us is quite strong, as William goes for an offensive lead of Incineroar and Kyogre being able to spread those Water Spout or Origin Pulse damage.
Yeah, and we've seen this lead a whole lot from these sorts of compositions. The Amoonguss plus Palkia is so strong. We're going to see Kyogre just go for a Protect to stop itself from maybe getting hit by a Spore, but Palkia is going on the offensive, not setting Trick Room, just hitting a Hydro Pump without Max in the rain that was set by Kyogre to get a KO. That's a huge shift in momentum for Meaghan to be able to get that off.
Yeah, very immediate move coming out from the Palkia. It should be the faster one on the field, but interesting that William didn't go for something like a Spore on something like a Fake Out on that Among Us, to block it from going Spore and then allow the Kyogre to at least spread some damage off on the field. But then with the Incineroar going down, then this would then allow the Zacian to actually come in and now pressure some damage onto both either Palkia or Among Us.
Being able to have both of your restricteds out against the Trick Room setup is definitely a really strong option to have. Being able to just pressure a whole lot of damage and get that Incineroar out. But definitely tough to be down a Pokemon already. It really limits the resources you have if Trick Room does go up.
So Meaghan's switching that Among Us out into Incineroar. Zacian really just provides a lot of pressure with the damage that it has, bringing Zacian down with that Intimidate to -1. And William's actually activating the Dynamax on the Kyogre here. Maybe going for something like the Max Hailstorm, like double up into the Among Us to remove the threat of Spore altogether. So curious to see what move he has locked into and whether this switch into Incineroar from Meaghan is a smart one or not.
The play ref call is made, even though there was the threat of the redirection from the Amoonguss. I'm going for that play ref anyways, but Meaghan accounting for that, getting that Intimidate off, and Palkia's Wiki Berry, I believe, activating and making sure that it survives and still has a lot of health. So even if this Hailstorm is into the Palkia, and it's not, it's into that Incineroar, so that Palkia is going to be able to set Trick Room, that Incineroar switched in and saved the Amoonguss for later, and crucially, this Kyogre didn't set a Max Lightning, so when the Amoonguss does come back in, it's going to be able to do a whole lot of damage to William's side of the field. Not damage, but support.
And then Kyogre reveals the life orb here as finally Palkia goes for that Trick Room, that all-important Trick Room, to be able to turn the speeds around, right, and be able to move first. Interestingly, the hail damage went into the Kyogre and the Zacian last, right? So Palkia would then be able to move first in this Trick Room environment, and that would be very beneficial for Meaghan in these turns forward. Kyogre is Dynamaxing here, and Meaghan's being very patient to stall out Dynamax. The Flamethrower comes out without rain, right? This is in hail. That's a significant chunk to Zacian, as Incineroar goes for the parting shot to get itself out of the way in case Kyogre goes for yet another Max Geyser.
Being able to just sort of play conservatively, really try to time when you do go offensive. You have plenty of turns of Trick Room. Getting that Kyogre lowered on attacking sets is really nice when the Dynamax is already committed, and you can maybe save your Dynamax for later, and so much damage into that Zacian. But the Max Lightning is coming out perfectly timed. Doesn't quite take out that Palkia, though. That's a really big deal.
Yeah, I think the hail is gonna chip that Palkia down, so that could be beneficial, and Willie knows like he's kind of in the back foot, with this trick room setup and plenty of trick room turns to go. Does not protect the Zacian very importantly. Goes for the read, like the Incineroar is gonna parting shot out and goes for Behemoth Blade, doing significant damage into the Among Us, but the Among Us reveals the Citrus Berry just helps it reveals heal up so much health, and now like kind of threaten something on the field, but very heads up from William, right, to be able to set up that electric terrain on that turn, and then in Trick Room prevent Among Us from being very annoying with these spores.
It really feels like perfectly timed max moves from William with how this has played out. You got the Hailstorm earlier to set up the chip that eventually meant that Palkia went down, and you timed the Lightning right as the Among Us comes back in. At the same time, though, Meaghan's definitely been playing this around, like being okay with losing some momentum that last turn, because now Calyrex comes in, and then Zacian's at half health, because Hail was up, and so you could go for that safe flamethrower. And it definitely feels like Meaghan was not afraid to have this sort of situation happen, and it feels like she's really planned for it.
Yep, so Calyrex will then be able to come in. Like, I think it's a blessing in disguise that the Palkia was able to go down, because Calyrex really needs a lot of turns of Trick Room. Like 4 more turns of Trick Room now, and then 3 turns just nice for Calyrex to activate that Dynamax and put on as much pressure as possible. At this point, going for Glacial Lance might be a little bit tricky, right, if you're not able to take that confident KO on the Zacian, so Dynamaxing here might be useful, and really tries to preserve the Zacian by switching it out and bringing that Rillaboom in to try and take the brunt of the damage, trusting that Meaghan might not just simply go for the Glacial Lance on this turn, and sure enough, we see her activate her Dynamax on this Calyrex Ice.
So the sort of obvious play for Meaghan here would be to max Quake into that Zacian slot, which just switched out to Rillaboom to try to keep it around. As I said before, William has really limited resources for navigating this Trick Room, and so really has to get some calls right here. But if I saw the move clicked correctly for Meaghan, we could see a really interesting turn here. Amoonguss protecting, gonna keep itself safe so that it's around later if maybe a Pollen Puff's needed, or now that Grassy Terrain's up, it can spore. But the Max Hailstorm coming out into the Rillaboom, Meaghan made the call! That's such a huge deal, and that's very nearly just deciding the match. That's such an extraordinary read.
Well, complete mind games coming out here. If the Zacian were to stay in, then it might even take that KO onto the Calyrex Ice, but there were so many options that Meaghan had, and I felt like she was brave enough to go for this this play, and it just makes good sense, like that the Zacian is so threatened and just wants to play defensive with so many extra turns of Trick Room left. The protect on Among Us was just so strategic as well, just to let it soak up that life orb boosted Max Geyser from the Kyogre, and it just healed up that with Grassy Terrain that the Rillaboom set, like just the amount of damage that Kyogre did back to the Among Us earlier. And I think Willie was kind of calling that switch that maybe Among Us would want to switch out, being not very useful in this position, but Meaghan read that perfectly with that protect on the Among Us. Zacian is now forced to come back, right, and it has to play super defensively and try and stall out these turns of Trick Room.
Yeah, that's such a hallmark of an excellent player, to really be thinking that turn and not go for the standard safe play, and really getting that call right because it might have been necessary for this game. And we do now see the Spore coming out in that Kyogre. Zacian protected itself, so it's going to live another turn, but it's going to be, or I should say, it's going to stay conscious for another turn, but it's going to be a bit difficult for William to do very much, because you've got another turn of Max, and even if there's a double protect from that Zacian, you're able to still finish it off and get that knockout.
True. I think the Max Geyser from the Kyogre was pretty smart from Williams, and to kind of not let that hail chip keep going on the field. At the same time, the Rillaboom's Grassy Terrain is keeping the team healthy, so if Zacian gets off yet another double protect, and somehow he survives this +1 Max Quake through protect, it could be useful towards the end game to stall out Trick Room and then dish out damage. But Kyogre here, has to burn 1 turn of sleep, so Meaghan is in complete control. The Pollen Puff does come in, that's the move that Meaghan chooses to reveal to, chip this Kyogre a little bit down, and Zacian does not protect on this turn.
So getting that max quick KO is great. This Kyogre could wake up and maybe double critical hit and do something, but it's definitely going to be tough for it to close out the game, even though it's not immediately threatened. Meaghan's definitely managed this really well to get to this point, where Calyrex is at +2 attack, I believe. This Kyogre, it does just stay asleep, so not a whole lot of options left for William as Meaghan looks for the ways to close out this game, and both players start to think about what they can do next time.
True, like she plays very carefully to go for max quicks, knowing that Kyogre is the only Pokemon left and boosting special defense as much as possible on the Among Us side. Like revealing the Pollen Puff can be okay, and maybe not like telling that the Calyrex might not be a weakness policy set since Among Us might not have enough moves. Kyogre actually wakes up first, goes for that Water Spout, but let's see that damage into the Calyrex. That's super sad damage because Calyrex was really well prepared with those max quicks. So even with that life orb, that's really impressive coming out from the Calyrex there. And Meaghan, all she has to do is click buttons right now to dish out damage. Wow, that's strong. That's just a clean KO, a single target into the Kyogre.
Single target, 130 base power ice attack after 2 beast boosts, not beast boosts, pardon, after 2 chilling nay boosts, the same effect to different name, different flavor, just enough to close that out. And I think even with a critical hit, I don't believe that Water Spout would have gotten the KO. So really well played by Meaghan. I think it's tough to know when you're in a commanding situation after like an early read, getting that Incineroar KO, whether you should just play safe and win that way, or whether you should find the right time to get a read and close something out. And I thought it was really cool to see how a veteran player navigates that. Meaghan really timed that well. You could see her thinking for so long on that turn. I was surprised. I was like, well, why wouldn't you just click a max quake? And then she showed us why. And I thought it was really neat to recognize, if I play safe, I don't know if I can win, and I'm really confident about this read, and so I'm going to go for it. That was really impressive to see.
She was very clear with her flowcharts as well with this Incineroar and Kyogre lead. Like you don't just go for Trick Room on turn 1 like 2 Telegraph. Just getting rid of that Incineroar fast, since you know that there's very little switching to Max Geyser Hydro Pump in Rain, right? So after that, then knowing the right time to set up Trick Room, and then continuing to clean up the game that way. It's just masterful play, and I think William has to go back to the drawing board to try and figure out a way to put on more pressure, right, and then stop that Trick Room from happening, for example.
Looks like the change to get a little bit more pressure is to have that Zacian as a lead instead of the Kyogre, able to threaten that play rough into that Palkia with that fake out pressure on the Amoonguss to stop redirection. So definitely a bit more pressure, but you have to be a little bit nervous. That Incineroar did not match up well with the Palkia in game 1. You really don't want to lose it again game 2. I'm curious how William will play at the start of this game.
Yeah, that's true, and we already know that the Hydro Pump is a clean KO onto the Incineroar, and it doesn't have something like a Focus Sash or a Partial Berry, right? So William has to play carefully here and maybe preserve that Incineroar more for that Calyrex in the back. Meaghan actually switches here, the Amoonguss doesn't want to stay in and take unnecessary damage, always brings in this Incineroar to ensure that the Zacian goes back to neutral. The Incineroar goes for the fake out to stop the Rage Powder. The Payraf does come in, and with this Intimidate, the Palkia will then be able to survive. We saw that roll earlier. Now it's able to set up eat that Wiki Berry and get a little bit of health back, but most importantly, set up this Trick Room.
Just an extraordinary play by Meaghan. You can really tell she's played these sorts of matchups with this sort of team so often, really leveraging the power that this Amoonguss and Incineroar defensive duo has. All she did was switch, and she still did so much damage reduction and distracted so much from the opponent. Like that fake out, if it had gone into the Palkia, would have been amazing. But there was so much risk from that Amoonguss that it really felt like that was the play William had to go for. And Meaghan really just capitalizing on that and getting into this great position where the Zacian is under so much pressure. The Palkia is just fine on hit points, and you've still got 4 more turns of Trick Room.
Yeah, I think switching in the Kyogre should make sense now. But William actually switches in the Rillaboom here. Let's see if this Incineroar, tries to go on the offensive and takes the opportunity to do damage into the Zacian. And does William try to play defensive and try and stall out these Trick Room turns? Actually pulls out the double switch here. Yeah, Kyogre is coming in here, and is able to soak up something like a Flare Blitz if the Incineroar were to go for it. Let's see if the Incineroar actually goes for that fake out into what was once the other Incineroar, as the Hydro Pump goes into the Rillaboom but misses.
Not the most significant of misses being able to, it would have been into a resisted attack. I like that William's saying, I see that you just switched your Incineroar to a grass type. Wow, it got hit by Fake Out. I can do exactly the same thing, and it works out okay to manage this first turn of Trick Room. I think it's a really crucial difference this time around now that Trick Room is set up, that Meaghan hasn't gotten the KO onto that Incineroar. It feels like William has so many more tools, and then dodging that Hydro Pump does help because the Rillaboom's now at much more comfortable health, and there's no real way to use fire-type attacks to whittle it down in the rain.
Yeah, I guess it's just how flexible Zacian Kyogre team is with the Incineroar and Rillaboom, as support mons, right? Able to switch in defensively and soak up hits and, waste these precious turns of Trick Room that Meaghan has set up. Meaghan went for the Spatial Rend into the Rillaboom to do significant damage, and the Incineroar went for Parting Shot, but Incineroar the Rillaboom has not moved yet, right? So might want to go for like a like a Wood Hammer, into this Palkia slot, but will he be able to take that KO? Yes, it will.
Yeah, so that's a huge deal. I take back my word, the Hydro Pump miss didn't matter. That would have been a KO'd Rillaboom that didn't get that attack off. And the Ice Beam call! William's been reading into this Incineroar Amoonguss pivot so much, and it's paying off. Getting that Ice Beam off, getting that Amoonguss down a little bit, so it's threatening the Spores, but at least you get a little bit of damage off. That's definitely important for William going forwards.
Well, William's making good reads, once the Trick Room was set up to try and get back in the game, but now this Calyrex Ice, does have free reign to come in and pressure a lot of damage. So William still has all 4 Pokemon, right? Still has good tools. So curious to see how he's able to navigate through this, especially when this Amoonguss now, without electric terrain, has a lot of pressure on the field to, go for that Spore in that Kyogre slot.
Yeah, there's just so much in this position that Meaghan is playing towards, and there's just so much pressure in so many different ways. We do see the Incineroar come in, gets an Intimidate off onto the Calyrex. This time Incineroar's around. It's not gone by the time that Calyrex comes out. That's really useful. But I think we saw Meaghan reading into some things again. If the Calcs work out, I think they will. There's a lot going on. And that White Herb negating the damage or the effect of that Intimidate, and suddenly this Calyrex is able to Dynamax and do a whole lot if it gets the targeting right this turn.
White Herb is one of the cooler items on Calyrex Ice, in these kind of team compositions, but particularly to counter Incineroars, right? The Rillaboom goes for that Protect here, maybe calling the Astral Barrage coming out. The Pollen Puff actually goes into Rillaboom's Protect as the Calyrex now. We saw that earlier. He's gonna go for Max Quake into what was once the Kyogre. Actually not catching the Incineroar on switch in, and the Protect from the Rillaboom, all things considered, was a very good Protect, right? To be able to stop this one turn of Dynamax from this Calyrex Ice.
William did it. He found it. He found the best play he could have made in that situation. Protecting that Rillaboom was huge. Meaghan was accounting for so much by trying to get the KO with the Rillaboom and letting the Max Quake either hit the Incineroar if it switches in on that slot, or redirect to the other slot to hit it. But Protect on Rillaboom really putting in work. And now you've positioned some things in that are a bit better at handling things, but Meaghan still has a lot more resources and a lot more opportunity to go for big attacks with this Calyrex, especially because of that White Herb. This Calyrex's damage isn't even reduced yet. Oh, but safety got.
So that's why Incineroar switched in, right? Because the Spore on the Kyogre slot earlier was so obvious. And we do reveal that information here, that Incineroar is that safety goggles, and Meaghan would, she's one game up, it does make sense to just go for the Spore to confirm the item, and we do see it here, right? And the Calyrex Ice now gets to go for that Max Hailstorm into the Rillaboom. Interesting that the Rillaboom did not switch out. The Incineroar actually takes the opportunity to go for the Spore onto the Amoonguss, and that could be useful since William still has 2 more Pokemon in the back, and still the Trick Room turns are also running out, right? And also has the option to Dynamax. Yeah, the Trick Room message showed that it has expired, and now William can come in with this Zacian and provide a lot of pressure.
The timing from William is just incredible from that. Letting the Rillaboom fade at just the right time for the dimensions to return to normal, and have it go first and threaten that Behemoth Blade into the Calyrex, while Amoonguss just got taunted and it can't use Rage Powder to redirect the attack. I'm really impressed with that play. It does feel like Meaghan still has a lot of resources she can use here. I think we saw her looking at that Incineroar pivot that maybe helps Calyrex to survive a Behemoth Blade, but there's just so much play that William is doing, and I'd be really interested to see how he's able to use that on this turn. He's really set himself up to have an influential turn in this particular round.
He really seemed like he worked very hard to get to this point,
Yeah.
to stall that trick room out. What a gamer, and the way like all the Pokemon interacted to get to this point was really impressive. So the moment of truth, right, we will get to see if this -1, like this intimidated Beamer Blade is able to do significant damage, and at the same time, what will Williams Incineroar do? Knowing that the Calyrex is generally really bulky and would not be able to go down that easily. So instead of going for that follow-up Flare Blitz, actually goes for this like parting shot into Meaghan's Incineroar.
I imagine Williams definitely wondering now if a Flare Blitz into that Calyrex would have finished things off and been better, but at the same time, there was risk there, because if there was like a Max Guard and a pivot to Incineroar, suddenly there's fake out pressure the next turn. And so really just doing his best to manage everything, but it means that Meaghan does get to squeak in a nice little attack with his Calyrex here, and that might just be the end of Zacian or a whole lot of damage into it. And yeah, we see the Zacian going down, and with Kyogre setting up the rain, it's in a good spot to do damage itself. Trick Room's still not up. But definitely tough for William to lose that Zacian, because there was no safe way to capitalize on that turn, even with everything he did.
Yeah, what a beast from neutral like Calyrex, right? That White Herb helps so much to get off this full-powered Max Quick and take that clean one-hit KO into the Zacian. However, I think William has tried his best, all the way to this point to maneuver to this position where he can finally like activate that Dynamax on the Kyogre. For example, if you like fear that Meaghan's Incineroar, it just switched in, right, has the faster fake out. We still don't know that speed interactions yet, right? So Kyogre could be just safer for the Kyogre to go for a Max instead. And we know that the Among Us is in the back, so Kyogre with this Life Orb would then be able to threaten a lot of damage onto all of Meaghan's remaining Pokemon on the field. Williams just played very well to be very patient, stall out Trick Room, at the same time preserve his Dynamax for himself.
Yeah, I'm still one step behind William, but definitely just like even with the Zacian going down, all you needed was the damage in that Calyrex, and now Dynamax fades, and this Kyogre has so much pressure. As you mentioned, it has the Dynamax option. It can also try to stick to going for Water Spouts so that redirection doesn't happen. It means it doesn't get to attack this turn, but if we see that other fake out go into the Calyrex, it's just a dead turn, and William's in the same position as before, and now this Water Spout pressure is extraordinary. Even if that Amoonguss tries to pivot in somehow, it can't really take 2 Water Spouts. There's just so much pressure from Williams' side of the field, and it really is amazing to see someone navigate Trick Room so well.
True, and look at it in HP stat on that Incineroar. That's I think max HP Incineroar. So we already see like from the behind the scenes that this Incineroar is holding the Focus Sash, so it could be useful. Williams actually going for the Water Spout instead of the Dynamax, right? And trying to remove both Pokemon and make full use of Kyogre's spread move in Water Spout, but catches this Incineroar's Focus Sash, right? It's a surprise tag coming out from Meaghan.
Yeah, so getting that Focus Sash off means you get the Parting Shot, which means this Amoonguss coming in now could be really threatening if you're able to like find a way to get that Spore off at some point. William really saving his Dynamax, wanting to make sure that he has the Water Spout option and Amoonguss can't just redirect that away, which is really insightful play, but Meaghan's finding ways to capitalize on that and try to eke this back into a situation where it's not completely decided. As a Flare Blitz does go into the Amoonguss, but with Rain up, that's not necessarily doing enough. I don't know if a Water Spout plus another Flare Blitz would pick it up. Probably not, because of that Citrus Berry and the Parting Shot on the Kyogre.
That's kind of rough though, like that Incineroar on Meaghan is always faster because of this Focus Sash set, so it switched out into the Among Us before Incineroar can follow up and take the KO, but a very strange forfeit here. I think Meaghan doesn't want to show extra information.
I think I maybe have an idea of what was going on in Meaghan's head. I think because we've seen the taunt on Incineroar, I think Water Spout plus taunt does just win the game. I don't think there's a way, even if you like land a bunch of double protects and maybe like crit a bunch of pollen puffs, that you're able to actually stop that Kyogre. And so really interesting. William found a winning condition where he never Dynamaxed a Pokemon because it was suboptimal to Dynamax something at any point. Rillaboom needed to stay conscious exactly as long as it had to. And then right when it fainted, Zacian had to come in. Everything was like perfectly planned out. Maybe improvise some of it on the fly. You never know what your opponent's going to do, but it worked out so well to get that timing and to just be planning to get Water Spouts out, after Palkia is gone when there is no Trick Room. That was just such a well-played game.
Yeah, thanks for catching me on that. I think that now makes sense. And Meaghan is just saying, GG, let's go game 3, right? We can find a way to get back. And the way like Willie played, he really needed to work very hard to get out of Trick Room, to also stall out Dynamax and preserve his Dynamax for the late game. So then it comes down to playing, right? Like Meaghan, she knows that she has to set this Trick Room up, but in Trick Room could be a bit more like risk averse and like do more damage to the opposing side, for example. So here comes a change of leads, right? From William actually leading both the restricteds now, a very classic Zacian and Kyogre lead, and putting out just a lot of damage onto like most of those Trick Room teams, as Meaghan then leads with the Palkia and now brings in the Incineroar instead of the Among Us on the lead, putting that pressure of Fake Out and the Intimidate down on that Zacian.
Yeah, a great Incineroar lead, especially with this Focus Sash. The Kyogre is not threatening a KO. You're able to stop the Zacian from attacking, and now even if a Water Spout comes out, the Incineroar is still around to cause a lot of trouble. So incredibly well led by Meaghan. William using everything he can to make sure that Meaghan pays for setting up this Trick Room, but she's still not paying very much, and she's going to have a pretty safe way to establish this situation that we've been in the other 2 games, where Meaghan has Trick Room, and the question is, can she get the reads right to use it and get enough momentum that she wins, or will she be in a tough spot where William navigates defensively really well to get out of Trick Room?
Yeah, that's true. So now, like, both players are playing really well to just manage this best of 3 or to get all the way to this point. And now Meaghan really needs to, you know, press the like the put on the pedal and press the gas, right, and start dishing out damage. And William knows like that there could be a strong double up into the Kyogre, then Dynamaxes the Kyogre. I've seen this happen quite a lot, right, with these Zacian Kyogre flow charts. Even if like Zacian and Kyogre are in Trick Room, they're just so strong and bulky, right, and are able to help stall out the game. The quick attack actually is revealed from William to then remove this Incineroar altogether.
Being able to stop that parting shot is such a huge deal. Hydro Pump does connect this time, though. You can't use Flamethrower in the rain, but you can just Hydro Pump instead, and that's a lot of damage on that Zacian. But Max Lightning comes out. Super well timed, gets a ton of damage into this Palkia. I think goes just shy of activating its berry. And now, if a Moongus comes in, it can't use Spore. That's so well done.
Wow, that's so cool. What a nice way to flowchart this matchup out. But you know, Meaghan has options, right? Instead of Among Us coming in, Calyrex Ice. It's time for Calyrex Ice to shine and possibly Dynamax and put on a lot of pressure. I think like maybe Max Quick into the Zacian might be very sensible to do, or even just go for like Glacial Lance, right? The Zacian might even be in range. But now with this Kyogre Dynamax, William is saying that, you know, you have to respect me, you have to respect the amount of damage I can do with that Life Orb and that Rain.
Meaghan really being forced to think this turn. This is not like the other times that Calyrex has been out in Trick Room. The Kyogre's Dynamax been threatening so much damage. Amoonguss isn't out to redirect it. There's so many tough calls that Meaghan has to make to be able to navigate this turn. She has the tools, but this is an extraordinarily complicated turn from both sides. This is really interesting.
Yeah, this Kyogre is just putting a lot of pressure and actually forcing, you know, Meaghan to Dynamax at least one Pokemon. So here the Calyrex is the Pokemon of choice to activate that Dynamax on. Going for the Max Quick into the Zacian would make sense, and let's see if William plays defensively here. Sure enough, the Protect does come out from this Zacian. The Calyrex Ice goes for that Max Quick, helpful to boost like both the special defense on Kyogre, and Zacian actually survives. So what a nicely timed Protect from William there. But I think that special defense boost on both sides, like on Meaghan's Pokemon, would then be useful in the long run. The Spatial Rend goes into the Zacian, right? It should like be an idea to cover the Rillaboom switch in.
The Max Quake puts in so much work though, and that's such a big deal. The Palkia survives and now it gets the Wiki Berry, and it doesn't faint, and it's been so important for William to get rid of this Palkia in the past. And suddenly you're in this situation where going for Max Hailstorm and not the Max Lightning with the Electric Terrain boost is just shy of getting a KO. But in turn, the other restricted on William's side also survived with a little bit of health and made sure that Spatial Rend didn't redirect. But without having that berry, being forced to hold the Rusted Sword, Hail is just going to finish it off. And so that max Hailstorm really coming back to bite William. And just a tough spot, trying to probably read an Amoonguss switch in, but it ends up working out so poorly. And Meaghan really probably happy about that.
Yeah, really rough turn coming out from William. You know, you always have to go back and think, was that choice like, does it make sense, and could it have been better if I went for that Max Lightning, because then it would have taken that Palkia out with the electric terrain on the field. So such close margins, and Palkia just proving to be a very good Pokemon in this core of Palkia Calyrex Ice. Right, just surviving, getting that Wiki Berry off, and still providing good pressure now. I guess the Rillaboom coming in is a saving grace to be able to go for those grassy glides onto the Palkia slot and threaten it, and like kind of force Meaghan to switch Amoonguss in.
Yeah, I mean, William definitely still has a lot of options. It's just so extraordinary to see just how influential having just the right amount of bulk on your Pokemon is. I don't know how the damage rolls worked out there, but being able to survive really helped both of them that last turn. And now we're in the situation where Rillaboom's doing a Protect, maybe reading into a Max Hailstorm and being in a good spot. So that's great. But then the question is definitely, can this Kyogre do enough in its last turn of Dynamax before you're dealing with Trick Room in a really bad spot? Hydro Pump does go into the Rillaboom, so Kyogre is free to go for a Hailstorm. It's going to try to finish off this Palkia this time. Can it get the KO? It can. So just delayed by a turn, this Palkia is gone. But this is a tough spot because now Amoonguss is coming in. Kyogre doesn't have Dynamax anymore, and I believe Calyrex still has a turn left of Dynamax where it can threaten so much damage.
Yeah, it's quite timely that the Calyrex Ice was able to stagger Dynamax here, and at this last turn of Trick Room, I believe, just put on a lot of pressure that Rillaboom unfortunately has to kind of switch in early from the way things played out, right? And now just doesn't have Fake Out anymore active, and because it protected the last turn, right? So very tricky for William to try and stall out this turn. Meaghan does only have 2 Pokemon left, so I think William still has certain tools, but has to make a lot of very good reads to get back in this game.
Yeah, absolutely, especially with losing the Electric Terrain because Rillaboom comes back in. There's just so many tough situations that William has to navigate around potentially Spore, and so we're seeing the Incineroar come in. With that safety goggle, is going to be able to handle a Spore if that comes out. But if Meaghan got this call right and went for a Max Quake into the Incineroar, that could be fundamentally changing this game, especially because the Hail was set up, so this Flare Blitz is going to be doing neutral damage.
Yeah, this Grassy Glide makes sense from William, because you have to kind of put in as much damage into the Calyrex as possible. And to me, this Max Quake into the Kyogre slot makes sense. They have, William doesn't have a flying, like, didn't show a flying type in the 4 Pokemon that he brought. But amazingly, this Incineroar is built to survive a full power Max Quake from this Calyrex Ice, right? And there could be some chance where William gets back in this game, and he does make sure he preserves that Kyogre in the back, knowing that the Kyogre is the best Pokemon to like go for spread damage onto this Calyrex slot. But this Calyrex is just so healthy on the field right now.
Yeah, the Calyrex is so healthy. One thing that is really cool is that William has timed things so that Rain isn't up while Incineroar has a safe Flare Blitz into the slot, and neither of the Pokemon, Incineroar has a safe Flare Blitz, and then Rillaboom neither Pokemon can be affected by Rage Powder. And so suddenly we're in the situation where a double target into that Calyrex is extraordinarily safe. And unless maybe Pollen Puff can KO the Rillaboom or the Incineroar, it's definitely a tough spot for Meaghan this turn because there's so much option that William has played to here.
Yeah, Meaghan's super aware of that safety goggles and does exactly what she should do, right? Protect these Calyrex Ice. Yeah, the double up does come into the Calyrex Ice with Wood Hammer, a very powerful Wood Hammer with Flare Blitz. And let's see, the moment of truth, is this Pollen Puff able to take that Incineroar out? Oh, it is because of that critical hit. Oh, but William played so well to get to this point. It's just so unfortunate that Amoonguss is the Pokemon that takes that KO. Yeah.
We're still not, this is still very much anyone's game because now Kyogre comes in and it's got a safe Water Spout. And so if this I think it might come down to, there's so many options the players still have, but maybe if there's a double Protect from that Calyrex, because you can still keep putting pressure on it every turn that isn't redirectable. But Amoonguss now has a bunch of options to put Kyogre to sleep. It's not immediately threatened by any of the Pokemon. This is such an extraordinarily interesting endgame, and things are really coming down to all of these little roles. Like, could Pollen Puff have gotten that KO? Does Meaghan have a way out with a double Protect? Both players are really giving it their all here, and this is so exciting.
If this match had stakes, this would be really entertaining and both players are really playing their minds out. I don't remember how many max quick boosts these Calyrex got, but that it just shook off that like full powered. I mean, not exactly full powered, but very powerful water spout coming out from the Kyogre. This is the moment of truth as well.
Everything is a damage roll here. That's so extraordinary. And now this Calyrex getting attack off. Kyogre falling asleep. If this is a Glacial Lance into both slots, Kyogre has some guaranteed turns of sleep. Well, a Trick Room will do it too. Actually, will it? Because now there's a Grassy Glide threat. This is so interesting.
Yeah, that's true. So now, Meaghan has to kind of protect the Calyrex. I think these are the turns that are going to play out, right? And it's all about damage rolls and, seeing how much these trainers understand their damage calcs, right? And understand how much is needed to take these attacks from each other and get into a good position to try and win the game strategically.
I think this is all coming down to a read. Will the Rillaboom protect and save its Grassy Glide for another turn, or will it go for it now? It does. And if this Pollen Puff finishes off this Rillaboom, then now we're playing to whether the Kyogre can wake up or not. But losing that Rillaboom would be really bad.
Oh, he survived. Among Us can't save the day. Among Us can't save the day. So Rillaboom, I think William kind of understands that those damage calcs. I don't know how often do you see a Pollen Puff damage calc into the Rillaboom, but yeah, really clutch that it's able to survive as the Kyogre takes that turn of sleep.
There's still a chance to get a double protect.
but
the terrain is gone. Oh, I haven't been counting. So suddenly this Calyrex still isn't threatened, even though the Rillaboom survived. I don't know what to say at this point. I think we're begging on whether the Kyogre wakes up quickly enough to be able to get an attack off, while the Rillaboom just tries to keep that Glacial Lance at spread damage. But it's so tough because now you can Pollen Puff into the Calyrex, and suddenly you're in such a bad spot. Oh wow, this is such an extraordinarily complicated endgame.
Yeah, so all these events just played out. I think really both players really played with their hearts as much as they could, and unfortunate that all these damage rolls happened and that crit went into that Incineroar, because William really did seem to be in a very commanding position. He worked very hard to get there, to try to be able to comfortably stop Calyrex from setting up Trick Room.
Wow, what an extraordinary game from both sides. I really don't know if I could even say if one side was lucky or not. There's so much information we don't know about if those were high damage rolls, if those were low damage rolls, and it really was so extraordinarily important to have the survival with the Zacian, where the Calyrex way back before this endgame started, the Max Quake into the protecting Zacian didn't get the KOs, so Calyrex didn't get an attack boost, and the Palkia's Spatial Rend didn't redirect into the other slot. And that was just so extraordinarily interesting. It felt like every restricted in this set almost was also holding Focus Band, and it kept surviving at a really low hit point range, and all of them were influential. And I don't know, it's just when you're playing really high level Pokemon, the way you train your Pokemon can be so influential, and both of these trainers really did everything they could to put themselves in a great position to win. And Meaghan identified some awesome win conditions at the end there, and it was just so extraordinarily well played.
Yeah, I had to make good reads, and that protect into the Calyrex was really important. Overall, there was such a technical game coming out from both players, and this is such a worthy match to be of, right, in our top 4 set, for us as casters to learn and for us to be able to present this to you guys back at home. Just unfortunate that Canada has already won the week 4 really confidently, but really props to both William and Meaghan for giving us such an amazing match to cast.
Yeah, I mean, Australia really showing why they made it to this top 4 finish. Their players, all of them, have been playing amazingly, and it's really, really, really showed in these last 2 games, where Canada has not been easing up just because they've won the set or the week. They're still really giving it their all and thinking really carefully, and I'm really excited. I hope that this means that the players who have played here have a chance to really prepare and review these matches and be ready for Thailand, because that's going to be an extraordinary finals. And these teams just keep getting better every week.
Exactly. This is the week, the last chance already. Thailand is the match for Canada. They have already come so far. There's just one extra step to go for the money, go big or go home. So very nice to see how these last few matches play out, how these teams are able to conserve information, since from our end we are like encouraging everyone to play their matches and feature all these matches on stream. So like William, Kylan, and Jean Mark, who is coming up next, for example, they know that their matches will be on stream. So like Thailand is able to scout their, decisions that they made during the game, right? So very nice to see how these intricacies come about. And we're gonna have one match coming up next.
Yeah, one more match coming up. Please don't go anywhere. We've got a really nice little showcase and maybe a different take on how to handle the end of a tournament. A manager showcasing a really interesting Pokemon here. I won't spoil it just yet, but please don't go anywhere and stay right there, and we'll be back shortly.